Welcome to Business 100. This is Dr. James Yohe, and this is Chapter 10, Managing Human Resources. Today, we're going to talk about how to manage employees. Some of the stuff that we talk about here will sort of meld in with what we talked about in Chapter 9, so be aware of that. Okay, we're going to find a place for me where I'm out of the way. There we go. Okay, some of the objectives, these are things you should make sure you know. So these are things that could possibly show up on exams and things that we view as being important that you need to know. One, define human resource management and explain its significance. Two, summarize the processes of recruiting and selecting human resources for a company. Three, discuss how workers are trained and their performance appraised. Number four, identify the types of turnover companies may experience and explain why turnover is an important issue. Now, one thing I want to get on before we go, you need to watch the whole video. The reason I do these videos is one, this is an online class generally, and you're not seeing me, talking to me, learning from me. So all you're going to get is what you get out of the book if you don't watch these videos, which I add quizzes to make you watch them. But you got to watch the whole video. Some people are only watching the video and then, or not watching the video and just going to the questions. That's defeating the whole purpose of it. People learn in different ways. One of those ways is audio. I'm an audio learner, so I put a lot of emphasis on this. If I hear something twice, I'll probably remember it for the rest of my life. So you need to watch the whole videos. If you don't watch them, I can go in there. I have a chart that shows me where you watched the video and where you didn't. If I see that you're not watching the videos, I guess I'll just stop doing them. Okay, I'm trying to keep them limited. I'm going to try and keep it to under half an hour. That's why I don't go through the whole chapter. I don't want you to sit here and get bored and not learn from these videos. I want them to be helpful. So we'll try to keep them under half an hour. All right. We're also going to specify the various ways a worker may be compensated, discuss some of the issues associated with unionized employees, including collective bargaining and dispute resolution, and describe the importance of diversity. We may not make it through all of these, but we'll talk about a lot of them. Okay, human resource management, HRM, called personnel management in some companies. This refers to the activities involved in determining an organization's human resource needs, as well as acquiring, developing, and compensating people to fill those needs. So one aspect of this is managers try to maximize employee satisfaction while motivating them to productively meet organizational objectives. One of the things you have to remember, especially if you're in human resources, is one of the most important resources that a company has is its employees. Okay? A lot of times we think, oh, businesses don't care about me. They just as soon replace me. Generally, that's not true. If you're a good worker, they don't want to mess with you. They want you working for them. It costs a lot of money to hire, train an employee, and it costs a lot of money to fire them. Okay? Businesses want you to be successful. When they interview you, when they hire you, they expect and want you to be successful in that business, in that job. Okay? When businesses have openings, they oftentimes want to promote from within. It's cheaper. You don't have to necessarily fully retrain someone and let them know how things work in your particular firm. So employees are valued resources, and we want to treat them that way. Number two, human resource management has increased in importance over the last few decades. Industries once dominated by white men, and I don't know why they put in this. I hate this kind of stuff. Today's workforce includes significantly more women, African Americans, Hispanics, and other minorities, as well as disabled and older workers. Okay. All right. Effective human resource managers are aware of changing employee conditions and use them to increase efficiency and productivity. Every manager in an organization practices some of the functions of human resources management at all times. So even if you're not going to be a human resources person, specifically in that department, you're going to practice a lot of the things that we're going to talk about in this chapter. Okay. Now, the next thing we talk about, and this is learning objective 10.5, is planning for human resources needs. During a company's planning period, the human resource departments, one, determines the current number of workers and how many plan to retire or leave. A retiring worker is a huge loss for the company. That person who has all of this experience, all of this training, all of this know-how, this human capital that contributes to the productivity of a firm is walking out the door forever. Those things are valued by the firm. So we have to be planning on replacing those assets when someone retires or leaves. So part of human resources is dealing with the fact that people leave the company. Forecast how many qualified employees will need to be hired or determines if layoffs are required. If you've ever worked for a business and someone left unexpectedly, that puts a huge hole in the firm that has to be made up for by other people in the business. So we want to be prepared for that and have people hired to replace those individuals as they leave. And oftentimes it's required to lay off employees. If business slows down or technology changes, oftentimes a firm may need to lay off workers. That's the job of human resource, to forecast the availability of future qualified hires. If someone leaves, are we going to be able to get somebody who's qualified in the future? And they develop strategy which may include outsourcing, automation, or temporary workers. Another part of planning for human resource needs is job analysis. Job analysis determines through observation and study the specific tasks that compromise a job, the skills, knowledge, and abilities needed to perform it, and the job environment. Managers use job analysis in two ways. Okay. The first way is job description, a formal written description of a specific job, including job title, tasks to be performed, relationships with other jobs, physical and mental skills required, duties, responsibilities, and working conditions. Okay? If you ever apply for a job, you will see a job description. Here's what the job is. Here's what you're generally required to do. Okay? This is important for the firm. We need to know that certain tasks are assigned to certain people and who have them. It's also important to an employee. Employee needs to know what's going to be asked of them. Are you asking something of me that I don't want to do, or I am not capable of doing? Okay. Either one of those two things can result in a failure. We can hire someone who either isn't qualified for the job or doesn't want to do it. We want people in jobs who are qualified and want to be there. Okay? If you've ever had a job where you didn't want to be there, you know that it was very hard for you to perform at top level. You're like, I don't be here. I don't care about this. Fire me tomorrow and just be happy, or just get rid of me. Okay? We don't want employees with that type of attitude. We want employees who say, hey, I want to be here. I want to help make this firm successful. I want to accomplish the tasks that I'm assigned to. And I want someone in there who's capable and willing to assign them. Number two, the second part of job analysis is a job specification, a description of the qualifications necessary for a specific job in terms of education. Do you need a degree or not? Experience. We can't just throw someone who's never done this before. We need someone with 3 to 5 years worth of experience. Personal characteristics must be friendly and able to deal with the public, or must be dedicated, hardworking, and conscientious. And physical characteristics must be able to lift 50 pounds or more, must be able to walk long distances. Those types of things are part of the job specification. Both job descriptions and job specifications are used to develop recruiting material. Okay. Excuse me. So for here, we've got Snagajob, hooked on helping and hiring. Doesn't that sound sweet? Okay. Now, it seems fitting that a company specializing in employment should have a reputation for treating its own employees well. Snagajob has earned this reputation repeatedly. Founded in 2000, Virginia-based Snagajob is the top search engine for hourly workers. It made Fortune magazine's list of great places to work for in the best small and medium-sized company categories for 8 years running. Founder Sean Boyer credits Snagajob's happy employees with his strong corporate culture. Instead of one-time incentives, Boyer incorporated values that encouraged employee contributions. People want to feel that their experience and knowledge and what they think the best way to get a job done is appreciated. Provided competitive wages and gave rewards for outperformance. The offices were designed to promote collaboration and incorporates fun elements like a 2-story slide and office Olympics. I'm not looking for a place with a 2-floor slide, but a lot of people are. So that might tailor to the types of people they want to work there. Me, I'd look at a job and say, a 2-floor slide, what the heck do I want to do sliding down floors? Probably not a job for me. And I would suspect that this slide incorporates the type of personality of a person they're looking to work there. Someone who likes to slide down 2 floors. I don't know why, but must be a type of person out there that likes this. Okay. Snagajob's reputation as an employee-friendly firm seems to resonate with those who use the Snagajob website. The company currently has 65 million profiles for job seekers. About 200,000 employers use the site to look for candidates. This has caught the attention of investors who provided Snagajob with $100 million in funding to expand its mobile platforms. Snagajob demonstrates how a strong emphasis on its human resources translates into a successful business. Okay. So here, what are some of the ways that Snagajob incentivizes its workers? One of the things they do is provide competitive wages and bonuses for overperformance. Okay. If you remember from last chapter, that would fit in with which type of management? The traditional or classical style, right? That employees are motivated by money. Okay. They also incorporate some of the other methods we talked about. Employee contribution. Does anybody remember what aspect of or what theory of management that fits into? Okay, theory Y, right? The philosophy that a management style very different from managers. Here, they say, okay, we're not just going to give you extra money. We're going to give you a say, or at least a hearing, on what goes around here. What ways do you think we can do better? Okay. Why would an employment search engine known for treating its workers well have an impact on customers and investors? That's a good question. Okay. Companies that use employees from Snagajob or hire, workers might notice certain things at Snagajob, and their employees might do a good job for them. Hey, we need to open up a job search. We need a couple of guys. Well, hey, here's how we do it. Here, we can do a good job for you. We get you someone really quick. We get someone really qualified, and they may say, oh, that's interesting. Why is this person doing such a good job for me on what some people might consider a mundane task? Hey, go get me an hourly worker. And they might adopt some of the things they see at Snagajob. Okay. Why do you think it's important to adopt a corporate culture that motivates employees? I mean, that's a no-brainer. We want employees who are motivated because they'll work harder, they'll be more loyal to the company, which saves us money by not having to deal with high turnover, and makes us money by getting employees who will overperform, who will exceed metrics, who will go out there and go the extra mile. Okay. How is this different from offering one-time employee incentives? Okay. A one-time incentive, it's one time and it's done, right? Here, you can continually make more money if you continually overperform. Recruiting. Internal sources, which include internal sources include internal employees. Okay. This is very important. Internal sourcing for jobs is going to be less expensive than what we call external sources, or hiring from external sources. Okay. And if you hire from inside, that's an incentive for workers in the firm to work hard, knowing, hey, if I work hard, I can move up the chain here. Now, I've worked for a number of banks, and I worked for the same bank in two different places. In one place, they went with a lot of external sourcing. Okay. I was a banker. I was a top dog. I was number one. And I'd done it for a long time, a while. And I wanted to move up. And when I wanted to move up, they would dangle the job and then they would give it to someone outside the firm. This told me I'm not wanted here. I then transferred. I went to another area within the same bank where they hired internally. And I was moving up the chain. That motivated me and made me loyal to a company that I previously wasn't. I knew I was going to leave. I was like, well, they're making money off of me. I'm exceeding standards. I'm as good as I can get at this job. I'm ready for another job. I'm ready for something more challenging and something that I find more interesting. And they want to not promote me. I knew I was qualified for the job. I knew I could get the job anywhere else. and I was looking outside the company. I found the job that I wanted inside the company, and I'd have to move, I'd have to transfer. So I put in for the job. When I got there, I was very happy. Okay. Um, so internal sources are preferred. External sources include everything else: LinkedIn, internships, websites, posting job openings. Some companies use agencies or executive search firms, sometimes called headhunters. Okay. Um, that costs money. It costs money to hire an employee. It costs money to advertise for the job. It costs money to pay someone to review resumes and look them over, see if they're qualified, give them an initial interview to make sure what we thought was correct, then interview them again, and then train them and let them get accustomed to the culture of that particular of our firm. It's a lot cheaper to hire from inside. Selection is a part of recruiting and selecting new employees. It includes application, interviewing, testing, and reference checking. This process can be lengthy and expensive, but necessary to find applicants who can do the work and fit into the firm's structure and culture. Careful hiring saves future hiring expenses. You want to do it right the first time. Applications supply, excuse me. Application supplies basic information such as name and work history, but they also review clues about the applicant. Imaginative responses may reveal creativity, and hastily written responses could mean a person who does not pay attention to details. One of the things when you're filling out a job application, you always want to be careful. You want to make sure I'm not just writing down the exact same thing everybody else would write down. Okay. You want to be creative, and you want to make sure that you answer the question properly. I've been involved with hiring. I've read responses where the applicant didn't answer the question. They didn't spend the time to read and think about the question enough. Now, I, on the other hand, am the complete opposite. When I go on these questions, I'm like, okay, what answer could I, what is going on here? What are they looking for? You know, I want to come up with a creative answer. I want to make sure that I answer this question properly. And I'm very type A about it. I'm not type A about a lot of things, but when I'm filling out a job interview, I'm a very type A person. I want to make sure that I read the question and answer it. Okay. Um, tell me about yourself is, excuse me, I'm sorry, I'm getting too far ahead of me. Okay. Many companies now accept online applications. They can take from 2 to 52 minutes, I guess is what the book said. I don't know why they picked 52 minutes, but from 2 to 52 minutes to fill out. They may contain a questionnaire that asks more specific questions, how they might react, an employee might react in certain situations. This is a big one. One of the things you probably always get asked on an interview is, in your last job or in a job that you've had before, how did you deal with failure? Okay. You go to an interview, the last damn thing you want to talk about is something you failed at. Okay. Now, the correct answer to that type of question is to say, I made a mistake or something happened, but I corrected for it. Now, one of my favorite things to say was when I was a banker, we would have customers who would come in. I had a business customer come in one day. My bank had cut off his line of credit. It was a travel company. They were one of the first internet travel companies to be able to sell Disneyland and Disney World tickets online. Now, they had to pay for the tickets up front, and Disney required them to use a Visa card. They had to charge it on a Visa. They wouldn't take cash or checks. So this company had a corporate credit card and a line of credit. They were using the profits that they were making off of the Disney tickets. They were using those profits to expand their business, and in this case, they were going to develop golfing trips. It was a online travel company, sort of like Travelocity or something, or Smart, what was that one with William Shatner? I forget. Priceline.com. Except they weren't just trying to sell tickets and hotel rooms, they were trying to sell packages. So they wanted to sell golf packages. They found a niche in the market. So they were trying to develop this end of the business, and they were using the profits from the Disney products to do this. Well, when my bank shut down their business line of credit and credit card, they had no way to buy the Disney tickets. They didn't have the money to buy the Disney tickets. They were using the line of credit and the credit card to buy the tickets, selling them, paying off the line of credit and the credit card, and then buying the tickets again and cycling through it more times in a month. Well, they were also overpaying on the credit card, thinking that we would expand their credit limit. In the banking world, that's a sign of money laundering when you overpay on a credit card. The bank had warned them, don't do this. Their CFO, who wasn't very experienced, kept doing it. So the bank said, we don't need you. Bam, gone, bye. Now, that would be pretty much the end of a relationship normally. So the customer comes in and says, hey, you guys shut off my credit card, my line of credit. You just destroyed my business. I can't make any money. I'm using this money to expand. I can't do that. You just killed me. You might as well shot me in the head. I called. I said, hey, let's get this guy's line of credit back. He's not a bad guy. They said, no, forget him, dump him. So imagine you're me. I got this guy who's irate in front of me who just destroyed his world and his livelihood and maybe even his family. And I got to go tell him, we ain't going to do squat for you, buddy. Hit the road, right? Instead of telling him that, I came up with an idea. I said, you're a CEO? Yeah. I said, have you got a car? He said, yeah, I got a nice car, man. I got a Lexus. And I said, do you own it? He said, yeah, it's paid off, man. I bought it cash. I said, how much is the car worth? We're going to get your car. I look at the car. The car's worth like $50,000. And I said, look, I can lend you $40,000 on the car. We'll set you up a separate bank account, okay? And I'll give you a Visa debit card that you can call Disney with and buy the tickets. Buy the tickets. As the money comes in, instead of paying off the loan, put it in the bank account. Then, when you've sold most of the tickets, you'll have enough money in the bank account, call and buy the tickets again. Reorder. And do it that way. The guy says, all right. I do the car loan. I set the checking account up. It works perfectly for him. I'm not making this up. Every year for a long time, he finally stopped. I kind of feel bad. Probably retired. Every year on the anniversary of that day, the guy would track me down and find out where I was. I left the bank. I went and worked for another bank, and then I got the job here after I finished my dissertation. Every year, the guy would track me down, find out where I was, call me, and say, hey, I wanted to call you and thank you. You saved my business. You saved my life. And I want to thank you. How are you doing? Isn't that amazing? So you've got, those are the types of stories they're looking for. When I go to a job interview and I tell somebody that story, they are eating out of my hand. I'm like, I'm getting this job. They just asked me the money question. Okay. So those are the types of things we're looking for in an interview. Tell me about when you failed in the past and how you made it better, or, tell me about some adversity you faced in a job. Those are the types of things you might ask or get asked. They're looking for personality attributes such as self-esteem. Okay. When I tell them that, I'm like, yeah, I took some crazy stuff and turned it into a pot of gold. They say, okay, yeah, this guy's got some self-esteem, maybe a little bit. Ability to interact with people. Those are the things they might be looking for. An interview is the next step. Interviews can answer questions about the job, compensation, working conditions, company policies, organizational culture. This is a hard part for me. When you go in an interview, and they ask you, do you have any questions? They want you to ask questions, and those questions can be important. Okay. If you say, nope, I'm good, they're not so sure you're interested in the job. If you ask questions about the job, you're interested. If you have questions about how the job's done, they may say, okay, this guy is really interested in this job. He wants to know how to do it. Okay. So the questions that the interviewee asks can be as important as the interviewer. Okay. Here's commonly asked questions. Tell me about yourself. What's your biggest weakness? What are your biggest strengths? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? I see myself as your boss. That's not a good answer. Out of all the other candidates, why should I hire you? How did you learn about the job opening? Why do you want the job? What do you consider your biggest professional achievements? Tell me the last time a coworker or customer got angry with you. What happened? That's a good one to see if you're able to deal with other people while you're working with them. And describe your dream job. Those are all popular questions. Okay. Um, Testing. Oftentimes, tests are required. The ability and performance tests used to determine if an applicant has skills necessary for a job. Aptitude, IQ, or personality tests are used to assess potential for certain kinds of work and ability to fit into a culture. One of the big tests you'll take here is the Myers-Briggs type indicator, where that'll ask you certain questions about your personality, and they'll tell you what type of personality traits you possess. Um, a lot of employers use that firm. I've had to take that test numerous times when I was younger. You may also have to undergo a physical examination, including screenings for illegal drug use. Okay, lay off the reefer before you go to a job interview. Okay, I know none of you are doing that. At least I certainly hope not. Drugs are bad. Just say no. Okay, here's a little bit more about the personality test. That Myers-Briggs test is an important one, and it's used to assess an applicant's potential for a certain kind of job. For instance, extroversion, I can never say that word, extroversion and a love of people would be good qualities for a retail job. Okay, I am not an extrovert, believe it or not. I score I on those. It's E or I, and I get I. Okay. I think I'm an INTJ, which is like a autistic or something. Yeah, but I think I'm an INTJ if I remember correctly. Selection, reference checking. Okay, once you get someone in, you got to verify their references. Okay, you want to verify their educational background and previous work experience. There's nothing worse than finding out that someone you hired for the job that said they have a master's degree, went to chef school or never went to college. Okay, internet search to determine social media or other public activities. This is a big one now, something I never had to deal with. Um, Scrub your Facebook account. Get rid of it if you can. Okay, if you go and look for a job, don't put any political stuff up there. Um, God forbid, don't say anything bad about any ethnic group or race or sexuality or religion. Just put cookie recipes on there and you'll be fine. Okay, so if I were looking for a job and I thought there might be anything on my website or my internet presence that would harm me for the job, I'd just go ahead and erase it. Just get rid of it. Public companies like to do more extensive background searches. Applicants may misrepresent themselves on applications and resumes. That can happen a lot. Often overlooked stage in the selection process. One of the things you might want to do is check with previous employers. You want to make sure, especially in certain industries, that a person wasn't fired for misconduct or illegal activities or theft or cheating, especially in finance. A lot of people you'll find will rig the system. We call it gaming the system, where they'll do something in a certain way that makes higher metrics, but it's not really benefiting the bank. I worked for Wells Fargo. A lot of people were creating false accounts that eventually came back onto Wells Fargo. So if I knew someone that was working for Wells Fargo, which I worked for, I never did it, but I knew people who did. I even reported them. And the boss said, "Do you like your job?" I said, "Yeah, it's all right. I don't like you." But no, I had to shut up. Went and got another job. Okay. Um, Here's top 10 resume lies college you graduated from, foreign language fluency, academic degree, major, GPA, former employment or work history, awards or accomplishments, college minors, projects or portfolio, and job titles. All right. The last thing we're going to talk about here is we'll finish recruiting and selecting, but legal issues in recruiting and selecting. Title VII of the Civil Rights Act, if you are in charge of employing, you might want to read it. Prohibits discrimination in employment. The Equal Opportunity Commission, a federal agency dedicated to increasing job opportunities for women and minorities and eliminating job discrimination based on race, religion, color, sex, national origin, or handicap. One of the things you'll notice is not in there is sexual orientation. Okay. The EEOC, Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, is a federal agency set up to enforce Title VII of the Civil Rights Act in 1964. Okay, employers must not impose sex distinctions in job specifications, job descriptions, and newspaper ads. The Ninth Civil Rights Act of 1964 also outlaws the use of discriminatory tests for applications. Now, that is a very broad law there. What can or what cannot be considered discriminatory tests? This has scared many businesses off of IQ tests, which have in the past been very successful indicators of success in a large number of positions. We have the Age Discrimination in Employment Act, which was passed in 1967 and amended in 78. Specifically outlaws discrimination against people 40 and older, and also outlaws policies that require employees to retire beforehand, before they're ready to. We have the Americans with Disability Acts, which prevents discrimination against disabled persons. Now, that doesn't mean you have to give somebody a job that they are not qualified or able to do. Okay? A lot of employers get stuck with this. You cannot and you should not ever hire someone into a position that you don't expect them to be able to be successful. No law can require you to do that, or at least we certainly don't have any. Okay? If a person cannot accomplish the task or doesn't have the experience, don't hire them. Period. You have a fiduciary responsibility to the owners of that firm to hire people in who can perform the job. You're doing the person you hire a disservice by hiring them into a job that they are not qualified to do, or not able to do, or not trained to do, or don't have the experience to do. You're doing them a disservice. You just sentenced them to a life of misery, to being in a job they're not qualified to do. If you've ever been in a job and you know someone who's got a job and they're not able to do it, and other people have to make up for that, there's resentment. Why am I underneath this guy, or why am I not in a position like that, yet I'm doing this person's job and they're incompetent? They don't have the things they need to do the job. Do you think that type of person is going to be promoted? Do you think that they're ever going to move up the chain? No. They're going to be stuck in that job forever. because you hired someone who wasn't qualified and now you can't fire them. You haven't done that person a benefit. You sentenced them to life in purgatory. Okay, we have the Department of Labor, supposedly has oversight over workplace safety, wages, and working hours, unemployment benefits, and more. It often files lawsuits against firms that it believes are treating workers unfairly and violating labor laws. Okay. All right, finally, recruiting and selecting new employees, legal issues in recruiting and selecting. We talked about the ADA. Prevents discrimination against persons with disabilities. Does not mean you have to hire someone for a job that they cannot perform. Age and discrimination, we talked about that. And finally, Equal Pay Act mandates that men and women who do equal work receive the same wage. Wage differences are acceptable if they're based on seniority, performance, or qualifications. Basically, if you're a man and woman in a roughly comparable job and there are pay discrepancies, you may be asked to justify those with some sort of objective, measurable reason. Okay, that's where we're going to leave it off. Be short quiz. Thank you very much. Goodbye.